Everyone, welcome to the regular meeting of the Board of Commissioners held for the purpose of transacting the general business of the Township. Today's date is July 13, 2016. The meeting is being held in the Springfield Middle School Library. Please stand and join the Board of Commissioners in a moment of silent reflection, honoring the servicemen and women who place themselves in harm's way in order to help preserve our safety. Thank you, and please remain standing and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I got a big one there. She's in the back of the room. Putting it away.
I would begin with entertaining a motion dispensing with the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting as written and recorded in the official minute book of the Township.
So moved.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Sorry.
I know tonight that Commissioner Standish is away. He had a family commitment, but otherwise we were in full complement. The board is now open to comments or questions from the public. The board draws particular attention to those items listed on the agenda this evening. Please be advised that once the committee reports begin, the board can no longer accept questions from the floor. At the conclusion of the committee reports, public comments will once again be accepted. However, official action on those issues listed on the agenda will have already taken place. Therefore, if you wish to comment on an agenda item, now would be the appropriate time. Do we have any public comments? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Now we'll move on to the agenda. Item 1 on the agenda is the July bill listing. I move that the Board of Commissioners approve the June check reconciliation in the amount of $1,210,039.55 and the July bill listing in the amount of $1,823,673.72. That is my motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote. Item 2, the municipal campus renovation project. What this has to do with is something we've talked about. We have borrowed $8 million to build the new municipal campus. We've also gotten $20 million, roughly, a little less, from the sale of the sewer system. And that $8 million is currently covered by a loan, and we're looking at refinancing that loan to make it a longer period. And we have a couple options, and we will make that decision in the next month at the next meeting. Interest rates are very low right now. It's a good time to have this situation. But in order to do that, we have to advertise the change, and we're not even sure which one we're going to do, so we're going to advertise both of them. That gives the public notice that we're doing this so we can do this the next month. So I move that the Board of Commissioners authorize the advertisement of an ordinance establishing a plan to finance the Springfield Township Municipal Campus Renovation Project. The ordinance will specify the bond underwriter or banking institution, value of the bond or loan, interest on the bond or loan, and the term for paying the bond or loan. That is my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Do we have any questions or comments?
Yeah, it's just to be clear, we're only looking to finance the $8 million portion.
Yes.
So everybody knows that we're not financing the entire project.
Correct. We're just financing what we've been planning on financing.
To be clear, because residents have asked, we are using the proceeds of the sanitary sewer, the entire portion, of my understanding,
Yes.
for the municipal campus project.
Right, we've talked about in the last couple months, and we sort of thought we'd come out that way, but wanted to do the due diligence, and that's where we are. And I think Don's going to advertise the 15 and 20-year bond at this point. I'm sorry, 15 and 20-year note at this point. If we go a different path, that would delay it, but I kind of think that's where we are. So that said, any other questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote. The next item is the Cable TV Franchise Agreement. I move that the Board of Commissioners authorize participation of Springfield Township in the Montgomery County Consortium of Communities project to negotiate a new cable TV franchise agreement with Verizon. The consortium project will be utilizing the services of the Cohen Law Group of Pittsburgh to negotiate individual franchise agreements for the participating municipalities. The cost of the project will be between $6,375 and $7,225, minus a $1,000 grant from the Montgomery County Consortium. The Springfield Township Cable TV franchise agreement with Verizon is due to expire September 13, 2018. The Federal Communications Act permits the cable companies and municipalities the opportunity to begin negotiations up to 36 months prior to the expiration of the franchise agreement. The current agreement is 12 years. During the negotiation process, the Board of Commissioners will be seeking public input on the interests of residents and service issues that should be addressed in a new franchise agreement. And what this motion is doing is it allows us, because we're just one of many municipalities that are all in the same cycle, because Verizon came in 12 years ago, we worked on this before. We're negotiating together. It gives us more power and makes the cost of negotiation cheaper, which is what we did before. So that's what we're actually authorizing right now, is the negotiation. That is my motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote. The next item is financial advisor. This is kind of a housekeeping matter. I move that the Board of Commissioners authorize the execution of an updated letter of engagement with Public Financial Management, Inc., consistent with the Municipal Securities Rulemaking Board. The Dodd-Frank Wall Street Reform Consumer Protection Act of 2010 and its associated regulations have a significant impact on the municipal financial markets, and in particular, the way in which financial advisors like Public Financial Management conduct day-to-day business with municipal bond issuers and bond underwriters. As part of the new regulatory regime, financial advisors are required to make specific notations to their clients about its engagement with their clients and any potential conflicts of interest that may or may not exist. So what that language is all about is we already have an agreement with this company, PFM we'll call them, but the regs have changed and their disclosure of other relationships, the duty's gone up a little bit. So in order to track that, we're making an amendment. It's not material from a financial standpoint. That is my motion. Do we have a second? Hello?
A second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote. That concludes my report. I would now like to call on Commissioner Sham to give the Public Works and Facilities Committee report.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have two items this evening. First, I move the Board of Commissioners enact Ordinance 944, an ordinance authorizing the execution of an intergovernmental cooperation agreement to create an alternate total maximum daily load plan for the Wissahickon Creek. In summary, the ordinance sets forth that 15 Montgomery County communities, the City of Philadelphia, and the 4 wastewater treatment plants within Montgomery County may participate in the alternate TMDL plan, sets the terms of planning at 2 years, establishes the roles and duties of the parties, consultants and legal representatives, and expert panel, and sets the financial contribution from each party at $6,250 per year for 2 years. Through the mutual interest of the municipalities and wastewater treatment plants, an alternate TMDL shall be developed to restore the impaired waters of the Wissahickon Creek. It's my motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Next, I move the Board of Commissioners award a contract to Asphalt Paving Solutions of Hamilton, New Jersey, to supply and apply both single application and double application RALUMAC materials on specified township streets for a total bid price of $32,694. The township is piggybacking on a Montgomery County Consortium of Communities bid, which was managed by Whitpain Township. Portions of the following streets will receive the RALUMAC treatment: Mermaid Lane, West Garden Road, and Omer Avenue. My motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments?
So, we're going to use Romulac or West Garden?
Just the area right by the bridge. Not the whole stretch from Brent Road to Willow.
So you're saying the bridge, the wood portion? How many feet? I mean, how long?
300 feet. You know where the bridge was rebuilt?
Mm-hmm.
That is going to be resurfaced because what happened was the contractor did some damage. It kind of broke up the seal, and then we want to reseal.
The West Garden, is that on the schedule this year? Overall?
Just for rounding it, and not the whole stretch. It's like 300 feet.
Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Thank you, Mr. President. That concludes my report for this evening.
Thank you, Commissioner Shum. Next, we have the Community Development Committee report, which would normally be given by Commissioner Standish, but Commissioner Graham has willingly offered to do so.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm standing instead for our absent Vice President. First motion that he has is the land development of Winmore Court. And I move that the Board of Commissioners accept a letter dated July the 12th, 2016, from Kristen D. Bianzio, legal counsel for the owners of Winmore Court Pine Road subdivision plan, extending the 90-day subdivision land development plan review period until August the 31st of 2016.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Thank you. And the second on the commissioner's report is the land development traditions of Springfield. And I move the Board of Commissioners grant an extension to the deadline to obtain a building permit from July the 1st, 2016 to July the 1st of 2018 for the land development known as Traditions of Springfield, LLC, located in the 300 block of Hawes Lane in Flourtown. The original deadline was established through a court-approved stipulation of settlement between Transitions of Springfield and the Zoning Hearing Board of Springfield Township dated July the 1st of 2011. The extension of time will permit a future third party who may intend to develop the property in accordance with the approved preliminary land development plan the opportunity to perform their due diligence, met with the township officials at public meetings, update an existing traffic impact study for the proposed development, and secure final land development plan and approval to secure the requisite building permit.
Okay, thank you. That's your motion, correct?
That is correct.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
That will conclude the report for Commissioner Standish.
What about the billboard thing?
The billboard, that's up on the agenda. I guess before we start, I would have a statement
Okay.
that I'd like to make so that it could be a matter of the record.
All right.
In light of the recent discussions concerning the intrusive billboard on 309 that has affected so many lives, I feel that I would be remiss as a commissioner if I did not become a part of the record by recording my concerns and disappointments on the past history and present actions in dealing with the bullying tactics of this billboard contractor. Everything rises and falls with leadership. The more skillful and effective the leadership, the better the organization runs and more potential for success increases. But true leadership is stewardship, is servitude. So in serving my supporters and the constituents of Ward 7, I'm going to give you a factual and documented information of this issue per my involvement so it can become a part of the recorded history of the board. A breach of contract is defined as the failing to perform any term of contract, written or oral, without a legitimate legal excuse. This includes not completing a job, not paying in full and or time, failure to deliver all the goods, substantiating inferior or significantly different goods, not providing a bond when required, or being late without excuse. A material breach is any failure to perform. That permits the other party to the contract to either compel conformance or collect damages because of the breach. The following criteria can be used to determine whether a specific failure constitutes that breach: the extent of which the injured party will be deprived of the benefit which he is reasonably expected, the extent to which the injured party can be adequately compensated for that part of the benefit which he will be deprived, the extent to which the party failing to perform or to offer to perform will suffer fortitude, and the likelihood that the party failing to perform or to offer to perform will cure his failure, taking account of all circumstances, including reasonable assurances. And the last, the extent to which the behavior of the party failing to perform or to offer to perform comports with the standards of good faith and fair dealing. So having quoted the laws defined as a breach of contract, I'd like to deal with some facts. Fact: on November the 10th of 2010, the President of Springfield's Board of Commissioners, Jeffrey Harbison, signed Springfield Township's Montgomery County Resolution 1242. This resolution came as a result of the Commission Board meeting on 11/8 of 2010, where the Board of Commissioners declared the signed provisions of Springfield Township zoning ordinances was substantially invalid, and prepared this resolution to allow off-premises advertising signs known as billboards. Fact: on July the 24th of 2014, after 2 years of negotiating, MC Outing and this board came to a settlement agreement outlining specific conditions with the township and MC Outing to permit MC to construct a proposed billboard sign on Route 309 rather than on Bethlehem Pike in Flourtown, PA. I can supply copies of the agreement to anyone that wants to see it. Fact: on Sunday, May the 24th of 2015, Memorial Day weekend, without the knowledge and consent of this commission and its residents, the billboard company, MC Outing LLC, maliciously turned on the sign in violation of the contractual agreements formed with this board on July the 28th of 2014, and without permission to feed into the infrastructure of PICO. Fact: over the course of the last 19 months, there's been a total of 6 meetings and conferences that I have been privy to where the owner of the billboard company, Thaddeus Bukowski, has been present. His promises of a utopia foliage coverage to block the lights of the sign before turning it on, and an escrow account for the maintenance of foliage has not materialized to date. Per the settlement agreement of 7/28/2014 between this Board of Commissioners and MC Outing, which Mr. Bukowski is the owner, hence not even one of his promises and scripted agreement, not even keeping one of his promises and scripted agreement to this board and its residents. Fact: I have secured copies of the campaign financial reports, contributions, and receipts, detailed summary pages of the former Ward 7 Springfield Township Commissioner Bob Gillies, which documents in detail that he received a total of $10,500 from the owner of MC Outdoor Lighting LLC and his failed attempt to run for the state representative's office in 2014. These funds were given directly to this former commissioner, whose oath was to be protective of the interests of the residents in Ward 7. These funds were given within the same time frame where this former commissioner was involved in the negotiations with MC Outdoor and the Board of Commissioners. Fact: Springfield Township is a township in Montgomery County, Pennsylvania, United States. The population is 19,418 at the 2010 census. It includes the villages of Winmore, Erdenheim, Flourtown, and Orland. Fact: as of the 2010 census, the township was 83.6% white, 11.1% black or African American, 0.1% Native American, 2.8% Asian, and 1.7% were 2 or more races. 2.4% of the population were of Hispanic and Latino ancestry. Fact: out of the homes on Summit Lane, Sandy Hill Road, Shepherd's Way, Falcon Drive, and those who live in the Hanson property area, and the entire corridor of Orland and Winmore along Route 309 all are directly affected by a constant eerie glow in the dead of night. 83.4% of those homes affected are owned by African American families. Fact, on February the 23rd, 2016, engineering studies completed by Scenic America in conjunction with MIT stated that digital billboards are succeeding in capturing the driver's attention, as they are designed to do. However, and I quote, "They represent a growing threat to traffic safety, particularly along our busiest streets and highways." A 2015 study of 8 digital billboards on highways in Florida and Alabama showed significantly higher crash rates, 25% of Florida and 29% in Alabama. These sites near the digital billboards had a disproportionate number of rear-end and side-swipe collisions, both typical of crashes caused by driver's distraction. Right now, this board has the opportunity and the power to take a stance in an attempt to correct and rectify the situation by telling MC Outdoor LLC enough is enough. I hope that we are not hesitant to do so and have the fortitude to stand up to these bullying tactics. W.E.B. Du Bois wrote that rule following, legal precedents, and political consistencies are not more important than right, justice, and just plain common sense. I pray and hope that we can apply this mantra when we're voting on this issue this evening. So I thank you, Mr. President, for the opportunity to make this statement and for allowing me to address this panel. So having said all of that, I would like to move that the Board of Commissioners authorize the office of the Township Solicitor to file an action in the Court of Common Pleas to rescind the settlement agreement between Springfield Township and MC Outdoor LLC, Malvern, PA, dated July the 28th of 2014. This action is required due to the breach and continued breach of the settlement agreement related to the operation of the billboard on southbound Route 309, just south of Paper Mill Road in Springfield Township. That is my motion.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion?
Yeah, I have a few. I appreciate Eddie's rendition of the facts. I probably agree with a good majority of what you read. However, you're starting about 2 years too late. Where this came about, and I've been touting about it probably for the last 3 or 4 years, and this goes back to 2008. In 2008, we lost a significant zoning hearing case called with Giuliani up in the bus depot. At that time, and somebody you may know, our former solicitor who represented us at the time, I'm sure Mr. Graham's familiar with him, at the time, some of the board felt after a big loss on that, I can go into the actual transcript of the event, the zoning hearing case, which was a disappointment. One of the biggest situations we had in the township came down to the bus depot situation. Following that, around the same time, we had the problem with 9525, I believe it's addressed with Stenton Avenue. Again, we lost another zoning matter. So some on the board, Glenn, myself, Bob Gillies, felt it was time to change their solicitorships because we were afraid, and Glenn can speak for himself as well, but my perspective is we were going to lose a big case. Eventually, it was going to hurt us because I said at the time, I'll say it now, you just don't need a good lawyer, you need good counsel. It wasn't a competency issue, it was an attention issue. At that time, Jeff was president, and Jeff graciously, because we had some very heart-to-heart conversations, we interviewed other solicitors at the time. This is before the billboard situation. At that time, we interviewed Mr. Kilkenny again. We interviewed Mr. Garrity and his firm sitting right there, one of the best solicitors in the county, probably the state. And we also, the law firm of Timothy Knox. We conducted interviews, and at the end of the interviews, Mr. Kilkenny was selected again to remain our solicitor. And that was a split vote on that as well. I never voted at all for Mr. Kilkenny, at all. Following that, even though there was validity challenges to zoning codes all throughout, I guess, Delaware County, other places. At the time, all of a sudden, one day, we get a validity challenge to our zoning hearing ordinance for the billboards. And Mr. Kilkenny's our solicitor at the time. And without divulging the legal advice or whatnot, but basically, the advice was to declare our own ordinance unconstitutional, do a curative amendment, and the idea was that you wouldn't have any further applications for billboards into the township. That would put a hold on it. And Jim Garrity can correct me if I'm misstating here, but that's pretty much the gist of it. To Jeff's credit and we're both attorneys on the board. I think we both adamantly wanted to fight it at the time, and other commissioners at the time. And it went through a long process, but Mr. Kilkenny's recommendation was to settle. So that's where it began in 2008-9. Again, that's after we tried to change solicitors. So the other day I heard that we've been dancing around for 4 or 5 years. We've been dancing because Mr. Kilkenny pushed us onto the dance floor. Otherwise, we wouldn't be dancing. Our amendment, our zoning code would have been changed and corrected prior to this validity challenge, and we wouldn't be sitting here today. We would have been able to pick where the billboard goes. But that wasn't talked about last year because I didn't want to be political. I didn't want to start a big fight with everybody. We're trying to solve the problem. So for 4 or 5 years since Mr. Garrity he's been cleaning up Mr. Kilkenny's mess for the last 5 or 6 years. Every mess that was made in this township. So on the day when we reorganized, I give Commissioner Harbison credit, I give Commissioner Standish and the rest of the board, the 6 of us that voted to retain Mr. Garrity, again, to continue to clean up the mess that was created back in 2008 and 2009. So the idea that this is all Bob Gilly's fault, or this is all the board's fault, or we haven't done anything, I guarantee you last Memorial Day, when that billboard went up, I was just as surprised as everybody else. And that whole weekend, Glenn, myself, Bob, we were trying to do what we could to rectify the situation, but you understand what this gentleman's like. Some people ask for forgiveness instead of permission. He doesn't ask for either. He just does it, and I get it. I fully agree that Mr. Burkowski does not care about the settlement agreement. He's going to do whatever he wants. We're at that point now. We're at a point now, we've tried to work within the agreement. We've tried to use whatever leverage we could. Back in October of 2015, when we didn't feel it was, and when you were not part of that, Mr. Graham, we did have a meeting, I was going to say in this room, but in the Township building, October. And on that date, he came in huffing and puffing. We asked him to turn the billboard off on both sides at night until we rectify this. That was done. I monitored it for about 2 months because I have nothing else to do, so I drove up and down 309 a couple days a week. Well, it gets old when you have kids and whatnot, and I made it a habit on Friday night to try and drive up and down, and it was off. Residents have told us afterwards that changed. I have no disagreeing with you. I don't live at your properties, but for that first few months, it was off on both sides. Maybe we can disagree. That's fine. And that's what we tried to do. We're at a point now where he's just not going to comply. He's not going to work within the agreement. So I do agree with you. And this is something we've been wrestling with. But that's the full story from my perspective. This board, in a bipartisan fashion, has been trying to work on this. There's a big risk, and that's something we're all contemplating. If we go this route, I want the residents to understand there is a risk. There is a risk that we won't get anything, and maybe we're all willing to take that risk. It's also a risk of spending $200,000 to $300,000 on this lawsuit. And that's something we have to justify to the rest of the township. At the end of the day, we could have been right back where we were 6 or 7 years ago. We don't know. So it is a risk. I'm confident in our solicitor. I'm confident in our law firm to try and clean up the mess as best they can, given the situation and the legal parameters that we're in. So I feel terrible for the residents. I feel terrible for all through the township. And it's a shame. I have friends over there. I have residents I know over there, people I'm friends with, relatives for years. So it's hard. But I appreciate Mr. Graham's efforts since he became commissioner. I appreciate the efforts of the boards over this last 8 years, or whatnot, since 2008, 2009. but we're going to have to fight this. So I thank you for your words, Ed.
Yeah, well, in response to Commissioner Daley's poignant points, the reason where we're at right now, and as I stated at the beginning of my statement, the background I gave you only went back 19 months. I believe I did say that. I brought up the other issues because those issues were what came once I became more active into my community and once I threw in my hat into the ring because of the outcry of the residents because of this the billboard situation. So I understand that we have been doing this for many years, but right now we've been fighting it so long that we're just going back and forth and we're not taking any forward motion. Right now the residents are upset. The commission, the board is divided because of this issue. So I think we need to place it on the table with the motion. And based on my conversations with the residents, I believe that's a risk that we're willing to take because we won't be any better off than what we are right now with the sign on. So having said what you're saying, the only worst case scenario was that instead of the sign going off at 7:30 that it is now, it may go off at 11:30. I think that that's a risk that the residents, and I feel comfortable in speaking for the residents, and saying that's a risk that we're willing to take. As long as this office or this board puts forth its best effort to compensate and win this case for our residents.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. I don't disagree with you. So,
Motion.
thank you.
Do we have any other questions or comments on the motion? Did you have?
Second.
Yeah, no,
I seconded it.
It was.
right. Okay.
I just wanted to make a note that Commissioner Standish, in his absence, has voted in the affirmative for us to proceed with the suit.
Okay, well, thank you. That we can't count that vote, but that's maybe useful in the deliberations of the other members. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a 6-0 unanimous vote. My apologies. We usually discourage spontaneous comments on the, but I will let it pass this time. Thank you. And did that conclude this report?
That concluded
Yes.
this report.
We'll be back to you in a moment.
Yes.
I'd now like to call on the chairman of the zoning committee, Commissioner Daley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to announce that the zoning hearing board did not receive any applications for hearings for the month of July 2016. Therefore, the regular zoning hearing board meeting scheduled for July 25th, 2016 has been canceled. The next regularly scheduled meeting of the zoning hearing board will be Monday, August 22nd, 2016 at 7 p.m. here in the Township building. Or excuse me. So used to saying that.
Good luck with that.
Here in the middle school library. Get some milk crates and sit on that. So that would be my report, Mr. President. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Daley. I'd like to call on the chairman of the Cultural Resources Committee, Commissioner Wilson.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to announce that during the month of June 2016, Springfield Township residents recycled 237.1 tons of materials with a householder participation rate of 81.3%. The net costs for the month was $15,908.97. That is my report.
Thank you, Commissioner Wilson. We will now, because you did so well before and you have such a nice stentorian voice, we will call on the chairman of his Human Resources Committee, Commissioner Graham.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is concerning the Hillcrest Bond dredging project. I move that the Board of Commissioners award a contract to Geotech Incorporated of Newark, Delaware, to dredge and appropriately dispose of approximately 8,000 cubic feet of excavated material from the Hillcrest Bond for their low bid price of $1,308,989. We jump on $138,000. On July the 7th, 2016, the township received of 3 bid proposals. The other 2 proposals were from Bright Fields Incorporated of Wilmington, Delaware, in the amount of $192,289, and Trough Brothers of Sullerville, PA, in the amount of $198,930. The Friends of Hillcrest Ponds have pledged a contribution of $50,000 toward the cost of the project.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion?
I have one question. Monday night, we spoke about the engineer vetting the contractor as to, I guess you would call it the difference between the $60,000 between the low bid and high bid. Did that come to completion?
Yes. Everything is clean.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
That concludes my report. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Grant. Finally, I will call on the co-chairman of the Public Safety Committee, Commissioner Maxwell.
Thank you, Mr. President. I have 5 items this evening. First is the Northwestern Avenue speed limit. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-24, Schedule 1, speed limits by establishing a 25-mile-per-hour speed limit on Northwestern Avenue between Germantown Ave and Thomas Road. That is my motion.
Okay, we have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
I have one comment. And what's going on here is we've been asked to enforce the speed limit more tightly by the residents, and sometimes when that happens, we realize that the speed limit on the sign never was actually enacted, so we can't enforce it if it doesn't exist. So this is a cleanup matter. Any other questions or comments? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Again, concerning Northwestern Avenue, I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-24, Schedule 1, speed limits by establishing a 35-mile-per-hour speed limit on Northwestern Avenue between Germantown Ave and Stenton Avenue. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is Montgomery Avenue parking regulations, and please bear with me, this is lengthy. 1A, I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-33, Schedule 10 parking time limited by repealing the time limited parking on the south side of Montgomery Avenue, 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. Monday through Friday, from a point 140 feet east from its intersection with Paper Mill Road to a point 460 feet easterly thereof. That is my motion.
We have a motion on the floor. Do we have a second?
Second.
Let me just make a comment. What do you have, 4 motions?
There's 7 total.
Okay, what's going on here is that stretch of Montgomery Avenue, part of it is posted as no parking basically during business hours, and the part in the middle on the curve is posted no parking. The end result, if all 7 of these motions pass, is at the top half of the hill, there will be a section on the south side of the street that instead of being no parking during business hours, will be 3-hour limited parking during business hours. So that will be that change. And then the stretch on the curve where there's no parking is getting tweaked to be a little longer, to just make the safe zone a little longer. But in order to do that, because we're moving in and out of zones, we have to do it through 7 motions. But the functional shift is the middle section gets longer, and one section on the south side of the street above comes up with this new, instead of during business hours, instead of not being allowed to park at all, you can park there, but there's a 3-hour limit. That's my comment. Any other questions or comments? And now we're off to reading and voting as quickly as we can. All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is 1B. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-34, Schedule 11, no parking certain hours by repealing the time-limited parking on both sides of Montgomery Avenue, 7 a.m. through 6:30 p.m. except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from its intersection with Paper Mill Road to its intersection with Evergreen Avenue. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is number 2. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-32, Schedule 9D, parking prohibited by prohibiting parking on both sides of Montgomery Avenue from a point 190 feet east of Birch Lane to a point 190 feet west of Hillborough Lane. That is.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is 3A. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code, Section 107-34, Schedule 11, no parking certain hours by establishing no parking on the south side of Montgomery Avenue, 7 a.m. through 6:30 p.m. except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from point 140 feet east of its intersection with Paper Mill Road to a point 190 feet west of its intersection with Hillborough Lane. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
3B, I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-34, Schedule 11, no parking certain hours by establishing no parking on the north side of Montgomery Avenue, 7 a.m. through 6:30 p.m. except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from a point 600 feet east of its intersection with Paper Mill Road to a point 190 feet west of its intersection with Hillborough Lane. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is 4A. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-34, Schedule 11, no parking certain hours by establishing no parking on the north side of Montgomery Avenue, 7 a.m. through 6:30 p.m. except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from a point 190 feet east of Birch Lane to its intersection with Evergreen Avenue. That is my motion.
Thank you. We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
And last is 4B. I move that the Board of Commissioners amend the Springfield Township Code Section 107-33, Schedule 10, parking time limited by establishing on the south side of Montgomery Avenue 3-hour parking, 7 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. except Saturday, Sunday, and holidays from a point 190 feet east of Birch Lane to its intersection with Evergreen Avenue. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote. Mike?
Next is the
He's exhausted.
fireworks display for North Hills Country Club. I move that the Board of Commissioners waive provisions of Section 3303.112 of the Springfield Township Fire Prevention Code in order that North Hills Country Club may conduct a fireworks display at the club on Sunday, September 4th, 2016 at approximately 8:15 p.m. with a rain date of Monday, September 5th, 2016. The waiver is conditioned upon the following. 1, the pyrotechnical firm in North Hills Country Club shall add Springfield Township as an additional insured on their certificates of insurance for the event. And 2, the pyrotechnical firm in North Hills Country Club shall work closely with the Township Fire Marshal to help prevent an accident and to create a plan of action in the event an accident does occur during the activity. That is my motion.
Do we have a motion? Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
Next is our traffic engineering proposal. I move that the Board of Commissioners engage McMahon Transportation Engineers and Planners of Fort Washington, PA to perform traffic engineering services for the Church Road, Sandy Hill Road, Willow Grove Avenue corridor consistent with their revised scope of services outlined in a letter dated June 29, 2016 from Stephanie L. Butler, PA. The proposal is divided into 3 phases. Phase 1 focuses on the existing physical and operational characteristics within the study area. Phase 2 provides survey, design development, and PennDOT approval for possible reconfiguration of Sandy Hill Road and possible alterations to the existing traffic signal on Church Road at East Willow Grove Avenue. Based on the results of survey, design development, and PennDOT approval, the creation of a center turn lane on Church Road at Sandy Hill Road and Station Avenue may be considered. Phase 3 includes final design, bid documentation, and construction management for the portion of the project that the Board of Commissioners wishes to pursue. The cost of the engagement shall not exceed $67,000. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
And last, I have Shade Tree Commission memberships. I move that the Board of Commissioners reappoint Suzanne Yeager and Edward Ted Bell to new 3-year terms of service as members of the Springfield Township Shade Tree Commission. The new 3-year terms of service shall expire July 13th, 2019. That is my motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Any questions or comments on the motion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, say nay. Please record a unanimous vote.
That concludes my report, Mr. President.
Thank you, Commissioner Maxwell. I want to note that Commissioner Maxwell's 3 daughters are here tonight, and that your father showed great eloquence and skill in having to read an inordinate amount, and stamina. So you should be very proud of him, and sorry you didn't have anything else to do tonight. That concludes our formal section of the agenda. We are now open for any public comment at this point. Come on down. We need you to come down and state your name and address.
Jane Thomas, 901 Edan Road. The road resurfacing, is that planned to be done the same way as they did Station, which is kind of a waste?
It is, it's the same material.
Because it's just like putting a little layer of icing over a cake, but the bumps are still there, and it's not a smooth, even surface.
It's not.
And it just breaks up.
It's not intended to. It's really like a sealant like you put on your driveway.
Yeah.
If your driveway has a bump, it's just to seal and preserve the integrity of the street.
But there's not going to be any milling or paving to really do it right.
There might be some patchwork, but nothing of any consequence. No.
This isn't in lieu of repaving, it's trying to delay the repaving a little bit by keeping water from coming in. So this doesn't mean you go all the way back to the beginning. It's just trying to buy a little bit of time.
Okay.
So it doesn't mean you need to wait 20 years to get back. It is what it is. And obviously it's a money thing. Any other public comment at this point? There being none, I'd be willing to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. We are adjourned.